Hi there, Tundra owners. Today in our 2016 Toyota Tundra, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install Firestone's Air Command 1 compressor system. Having an air compressor installed on your Tundra is going to allow you to adjust pressures on the fly. So if you're out there working with your truck every day and you're constantly loading and unloading it, typically you'd have to find a source of air to be able to adjust it for each load. Well, now you've got that source of air right on your truck. So every time you unload it, you can let out some air, bring those airbags back down, head to your next job site, load it back up, then pump your truck back up, and you're ready to take that load wherever you need to. This is going to save you a lot of time, so you can be more productive every day. The compressor simply mounts to your Tundra, and this is where your onboard air comes from. Our Tundra's got plenty of room in our engine compartment, which keeps our compressor nice and safe, which makes for a nice clean installation. The compressor system is designed to work with existing airbags. Now, if you don't have airbags on your truck already, you can pick some up here at etrailer.com. I highly recommend Firestone's Ride Right double convoluted air helper springs. Your compressor system includes a T that will tie both of your airbags together. So that way when your compressor is airing up your airbags, it airs up both the left and right side equally. A small downside to this is that you do lose the ability to adjust side to side independently to adjust for uneven loads. I will say in most cases though on your truck, you rarely have uneven loads that you need to compensate for. This is a little more important for your large RVs who may have a lot of appliances on one side of their RV versus the other, but for many trucks it's not too much of an issue. When you install your T-back here as well, it does also remove your manual inflation lines. So you have no way to manually inflate those. However, this can be easily added back in by simply purchasing another T. Firestone has those available here at etrailer.com, so you can pick those up. So when you're wiring your system up, you can maintain that manual inflation valve in the event that your compressor ever does have a fault. Now you're probably looking around for the best compressor kit for you, and this is a great entry-level kit that's going to do everything that you really need it to do. But some other kits out there are wireless options, and those are something to consider. Reasons you may want to consider a wireless option is if you don't have anybody that goes with you to help you determine if your truck is level, you can stand outside your truck and adjust that pressure wirelessly and then just watch the truck until it gets level again when your load's on it. With this one, you're going to have to air it up inside, so you're not going to be able to watch it go up, so you're going to have to probably adjust it a couple of times till you get it level. But what's nice about this is that you don't have any remote to lose, and it responds really fast. As soon as I hit the button, it's airing up. With those wireless systems, you change the pressure on your remote, and then the system has to think about it, and sometimes it takes it a few seconds, sometimes 30 seconds, before it even starts to make that adjustment. So if you get a little impatient, this system might be a better option for you. We'll begin our installation by mounting all of our major components. The major components you're going to need to mount is your air compressor, your relay, and your air filter. Luckily for us, our Tundra has enough room under the hood to mount all those here on our passenger side just behind our air filter box. We mounted our compressor using the included screws, flat washers, and lock nuts. Just take your air compressor, hold it up here, and then you can mark through each of the holes onto the side of your sheet metal here, and then drill those out using a 3/16 drill bit. Once you've drilled them out, you can slide the hardware through your compressor. We can access the other side of that sheet metal on the side of our vehicle by removing the 2 pins located here at the top of our fender liner, and then you can just pull that down. This way you can take one hand and thread your nuts on the back side and then tighten them down. Once you've got your compressor tightened down, you can go ahead and put the pins back in your fender liner here, as we don't need to get back here for anything else. Next, we mounted our relay. The kit comes with the same hardware to get this mounted. I did choose to swap that to a self-tapping screw since it's just the relay, just to make it a little bit easier on the install so you don't ever have to get back on the back side with that nut. If you need some self-tapping screws, you can pick those up here at etrailer.com or your local hardware store. We then mounted the filter next to our relay, and to get this mounted up, you just need to drill a hole and you'll just press it into the hole. We'll use a 7/16 drill bit to drill out that hole, and then it just simply pops in that hole and it holds into place. We finished mounting all of our external components. Now on the inside, we're going to mount our gauge and switch assembly. This is going to hold in place to the lower right side of our dash using 2 self-tapping screws. Now, of course, you already want your airbags to be installed. We've already got ours installed, so now that all of our main components are installed, we are going to start wiring all those up. We'll begin over at our relay. You'll take the orange wire coming off of your relay harness, and you want to plug it into the red wire coming off of your compressor. This uses a male and female spade terminal, so they simply just click together. We'll then take the black wire coming off of our compressor, and we're going to ground it using a self-tapping screw. We just put that right here next to our air filter. Next, we'll take the white wire and the long red wire coming off of our relay harness, and we need to route that inside the vehicle. You can see here where our wires go up. We routed them up, and then behind our covering here on the top back of our firewall, we stayed behind that covering all the way across. To access the back of this, you can simply unscrew the plastics nuts that are located at the top, and then you can pull it back, tuck your wiring on, and these actually just push on to go back in place. There's 3 of these going across the top. We then came across here, and we come out the other side. The white wire we'll need to route inside, and the red wire we're going to connect to our battery positive. We're going to wait to hook up the battery positive wire until the very end because we don't want to cause any shorts. Now we have the task of getting the wires inside the vehicle. You can see our grommet located here on the driver's side just behind your ABS module. It's also just to the driver's side of your brake vacuum booster. To get through this, you can take a small Phillips screwdriver. You'll want to poke a hole through the grommet first, and then you can take the red air line that comes in your kit and poke it through that hole. I use the red air line then as a fish wire to get everything else in place. So once you've got the red air line poked through, to get that wire through, that white one there, you just take some electrical tape, tape it to that air hose, and then just pull the air hose and it'll pull the wire through with it. We're here on the inside, just to the left of our parking brake pedal, and you can see back there on the firewall is the grommet on the inside where we poked them through. Now you see 2 red air hoses there. That's because we do need to have one that goes to our gauge on the inside and then one that goes from the gauge. So you can use your airline as a fish wire to feed the other airline hose in. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our compressor now that we've got it pulled through, and we're going to hook up one side of the airline. Coming off of your compressor here, you'll want to take the Quick Connect airline fitting and thread it in to the threaded end. You can do that with a 1/2-inch wrench. And then the airline that we fed inside, we're going to route that across, just like we did our wiring, over here to our compressor, and we're going to poke in one side right into this fitting. This is designed to lock in place by simply just pushing it in. So I like to push it in and out a couple times just to make sure that it is locked in place. Once you've done that, we can go back inside and we're going to pull our airline tube until we've pulled out all the slack. Now that we've got our airline pulled all the way in, this is going to plug into the back side of our panel where it's labeled supply. So you want to bring that extra airline over, get out all the slack until you've got the appropriate length to plug in here, and then you'll want to cut your hose. You do want to use a special pair of hose cutters to cut it to ensure you get a nice clean square cut, as the quick connects tend to leak if they're not cut properly. If you need a pair of cutters, you can pick some up here at etrailer.com. You want to make sure you're cutting it nice and square. You see how I'm perpendicular to the hose when I cut it, and we're using a nice sharp razor blade, which doesn't deform the end of the hose and has a nice smooth edge. We'll then take the hose we just cut and we're going to attach it to the barb here where it says supply. If you're having a difficult time getting the airline to push onto the barb, you can soak the end of your airline in hot water. This will soften it up and make it more easy to slide over the barbs. We'll then take the rest of the air hose that we just cut, and that's going to attach to the barb here coming off of our T. Again, if you are having trouble, you can use that hot water trick to make it easier. This is going to then route outside, so it's going to go back through the grommet that we pulled this airline in with. You can use the white wire or the other airline to assist you getting this pulled back out. You'll have 4 wires that come out of the back of your gauge assembly. You'll have 2 black and 2 white. The black wires are for the light circuit that illuminates the gauge, and we're going to hook this up to our existing tail light circuit, so that way whenever we turn the headlights on, our gauge is going to illuminate as well. The white wires are going to be for the switch side that's going to control your compressor. One of these white wires is going to go to ground, and the other white wire here is going to plug in to the white wire that we had routed in. Here you can see the white wire that we routed in. It has a female spade terminal that's pre-attached to it, and the white wires that come off of our gauge assembly have male spade terminals attached to them. So you simply want to take the female end and plug it into the male end. It doesn't matter which white wire you plug it into on your gauge assembly. The other white wire coming off of your gauge assembly that has a male spade terminal on it, we're actually going to cut that spade terminal off and crimp on a ring terminal. This needs to go to ground. We attached our ground right here next to our data link connector to the stud right here. Now we'll hook up the illumination circuit. That's those two black wires. One of them needs to tap into our taillight circuit. So in order to do that without having to splice into any of our vehicle's wiring, we used a fuse tap here. Firestone has these fuse taps available here at etrailer.com, and we just looked up on the cover for our fuse box for the fuse labeled tail. We pulled that out, we put the fuse into our fuse tap, and then we put a 10 amp fuse into the other side of our fuse tap and plugged our fuse tap in. We then took the fuse tap, crimped a wire onto it, and we ran that over to our black wire, and we just crimped it to the black wire here. We've now got power to our switch. The only thing left that we need is ground, and the easy way to get ground is to just use the quick splice that comes in your kit. Take the other black wire and quick splice it to the white wire that we ran to ground over by our data link connector. You can then use the included zip ties to clean up your wiring, and I'm going to use some wire loom here underneath the dash just to make it look a little cleaner. If you need some wire loom, you can pick some up here at etrailer.com. We'll then take the airline hose that we routed back outside. We need to route it down and then towards the rear of the vehicle so we can connect it to our airbags. I'll show you the path that I took to get there. When routing it down, you can poke it behind the fender liner here, and then you can grab it and start pulling it down. From here, we just followed on top of the frame rail going back, zip tying it to factory wiring along the way. And we do this all the way down the frame rail until we hit just above our leaf spring. This is where we're going to start going towards the center of the vehicle, so we can make our connection that's going to split in teeth that go to each airbag. Now that we've got our hose routed here to the back, we want to cut it to length. I do always like to give myself a little bit of excess. And then we'll start attaching it to our airbags. The line that we routed back, we're going to plug into our T. And since our airbags are already installed, we can just cut the air hoses that go to those. Now, if you haven't ran any air hoses to yours yet, you can run that now. Ours already had airbags that were installed, so we just cut the hoses to the proper length. We're going to plug one side into one end of the T, and then we'll plug our other side into the other end of the T. I like to push in and out to make sure that our airline is fully seated inside of the quick connect fittings. You can then take some zip ties and keep your airline nice and neat. Now we can attach our filter to our compressor. Thread on the silver barbed fitting onto your air filter, and then using the leftover airline you have in your kit, go from that barb to the barb located on the back side of your compressor here. The last thing that we need to do now is hook up our power wire. So this was the red wire we routed across much earlier in the installation. We can now go back, crimp a ring terminal onto the end of our red wire. This is going to be a short lead that comes off of the fuse here. You're going to have some extra lead that's going off towards your relay. Use a 12mm socket to remove the nut, slide your ring terminal on, and then tighten it back down. You can then install the fuse into your harness if it's not pre-installed, and you're ready to test the system out. To make sure that your illumination circuit works right, go ahead and turn your headlights on. You can see our gauge lights up there. And then to test your compressor, simply push up on the switch. You can see here that our gauge is going up, indicating that our compressor is building pressure inside of our airbags. We now want to check for leaks. We're going to use some soapy water. We want to spray all of our connection points and look for the trace of air bubbles. And what we're looking for is bubbles that continually expand. The little air bubbles you see here, that's from the soapy water we're using. If you had a leak, instead of having these small little bubbles here, you would see them continually expand and pop and more bubbles continually being produced. Since we have none here, we don't have any leaks, so we're going to move on and check the rest of our fittings. And that completes our installation of Firestone's Air Command 1 compressor system on our 2016 Toyota Tundra.